Coming up next on the Poke Report, we're going to talk about Oklahoma State athletics and what is going on with the college football rankings.
Plus, the Cowboy basketball season is underway.
Not to mention, we're going to take a deeper dive into the upcoming game against TCU this Saturday.
All that and more coming up on the Poke Report.
Welcome back to the Poke Report. I'm Asa Lucas.
And I'm Dallas Haggerty.
All right, let's take a look at the updated college football rankings. The second college football rankings were released Tuesday night, and our Cowboys moved up one spot to edge out the top 10.
With 3 weeks remaining, OSU still controls its own destiny for the Big 12 championship.
You know, November can be a tough time of the year for football fans, especially for Cowboy fans, because normally we get our hearts broken.
Right. It's going to be very tough for the Cowboys to make it into that top 4, into the college football playoff. I personally think they should just shift their focus to the Big 12 playoff. I think they have a much higher percentage chance of making that. So moving forward, I think that's what they should do. Well, we can talk about the future all we want. Let's take a step back and look a week ago as the Cowboys went to Morgantown to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers, and Rodrigo has the story from the sidelines. Rodrigo?
The 7-1 Oklahoma State Cowboys traveled to Morgantown to take on the 4-4 West Virginia Mountaineers. The Cowboys struggled early on offense as they were unable to move the chains. It was West Virginia who got on the board first with a 30-yard field goal with over 9 minutes to play in the first quarter. West Virginia carried its momentum to the next drive when the Mountaineer defense intercepted Spencer Sanders, but the Cowboy defense kept West Virginia off the board. It wasn't until the second quarter when OSU found some rhythm on offense and started driving down the field. The Cowboys' offense carried its momentum into the end zone with a Sanders 10-yard touchdown pass to Tate Martin to put them up 7-3. Oklahoma State had an impressive defensive showdown for the remainder of the game. OSU became the first team to not concede a touchdown against the Mountaineers this season. The last possession in the first half led to a 34-yard field goal by Tanner Brown to put the Cowboys up by 7 points heading into the locker room. When it seemed like the Cowboys were going to have another third-quarter nightmare, Grayson Malashevich fumbled the football at the 26-yard line, and it was recovered by the Pokes. Oklahoma State capitalized with its second touchdown of the night, once again from the Sanders-Martin connection. After the game, Sanders talked about why his connection with Martin is so special.
We've been working on it since winter, ever since I got the chance to work with it. And it's paid off, We harped on it real hard in the winter. We harped on it real hard in the fall camp and every practice. Sometimes if we don't connect on a win during practice, we'll stay after practice and make sure we get a couple. So, it's just kind of been a tradition here.
The Cowboys had 8 sacks in the game and continued to stop the Mountaineer offense. Sanders continued to lead his team with 21 completed passes. Jaylen Warren marched to the end zone to score his 7th touchdown of the season and extended the Pokes' lead with 13 minutes remaining in the game. After watching their team bring home another victory, the Cowboy fans have high expectations for the remainder of the season. Following an impressive performance by the Cowboys, Coach Mike Gundy says this team is capable of anything.
I will say that if we stay humble and we focus and work hard like we have a chance to win every game we play, I would guess.
OSU improved to 8-1 in the season heading into the game against TCU in Boone Pickens Stadium. For the Poke Report, I'm Rodrigo Solis.
The Cowboys were the road warriors this last Saturday as they took down West Virginia. Thank you for the story, Rodrigo.
The Cowboys have been surprising a lot of teams this year. I don't think anybody expected them to be in the top 10, Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cowboys have really hit their stride when it matters most, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what we can do with a couple weeks left in the season. I took a deeper dive into really how great this year's Cowboy football team could be. Fall is in full swing, and the Cowboys have hit their stride. With an 8-1 record and currently ranked 10th in the country, this year's Cowboy football team has arguably been one of the more surprising stories around the NCAA. A team that was picked to finish 4th in the Big 12 preseason rankings has made some serious noise. The majority of sports media outlets predicted Oklahoma State to finish Big 12 play, looking up to teams such as Oklahoma, Texas, and Iowa State. Many of these critics were sadly mistaken. The Cowboys have connected the dots in order to come out victorious over 2 of these 3 teams listed in the preseason polls. The third team, the Oklahoma Sooners, a team that has had its struggles throughout the 2021 season. The annual Bedlam matchup is shaping up to be one of the more competitive ones over the last few years. However, the real question being asked around the nation, how good can this year's version of the Cowboys be? The Cowboy defense has been the key recipe to success this year. Continuously keeping the Pokes within striking distance has led to the Cowboys' dominant record as Week 11 is on the horizon.
The Cowboys did it again with a 24-3 commanding victory over the West Virginia Mountaineers on the strength of 2 huge touchdowns from Tay Martin in the corner of this very end zone. What's next for the Cowboys? They head home to take on TCU in a blackout for Week 11. We'll be there and we will have you covered.
The Cowboy defense made history last Saturday in Morgantown. The Pokes held back-to-back conference opponents without a touchdown for the first time since 1974. This speaks to the Cowboy resilience on the defensive side.
I feel that we've got enough maturity and leadership for our guys to stay focused and practiced hard and continue the things that have got us to this point.
The Cowboys now control their own destiny. The Pokes are set to host TCU and then hit the road to Lubbock to do battle with Texas Tech.
I trust our D-line. You know, I feel like we have the best D-line in the country, and that's all I'm gonna trust them, and then we're just gonna try to rock out.
Following these games, the Cowboys will head back to Stillwater for a showdown against the Sooners with plans to change the narrative of the historic rivalry. For the Poke Report, I'm Dallas Haggerty. The Cowboys are taking care of business, and many are afraid they're not done yet. Back to the TCU game. We have a lot to break down.
It's going to be a really fun experience, but also a very risky game for the Cowboys. So to help us break it down, we're bringing in our Big 12 analyst and my personal friend, Brock Baldridge.
How we doing, guys? Great to be on air again. Back from Morgantown, long trip.
It was a very long trip. We're happy to have you here. So Brock, help us understand, what is a big impression about TCU and Oklahoma State going into this game?
Well, it'll be very interesting, but one thing that I really noticed, and something that Mike Gundy mentioned in his press conference after the West Virginia win, is how impressed he has been with his young players in this team. So guys like Jaden Bray and Colin Oliver, the freshmen in this team, has really stepped up, and they've gone to a new level to kind of really replace some of the guys that they've lost this year. You know, we've had some injuries with receivers and some injuries on defensive players, but the young guys have stepped up, and they have been the most impressive. And right now, I think they're a big factor in why this team is winning the way they are.
It's the Horned Frogs and the Cowboys this coming week. The Horned Frogs coming off a huge win against Baylor just a week ago. My keys to the game are basically going to be Spencer Sanders needs to stay consistent on offense, right? This is the Big 12. It's a huge throw. It's a huge score-it league. There's only so many games your defense can win for you. So my biggest key will be Spencer Sanders to be the leader of this Cowboy football team.
My 3 keys of this game is similar to your Spencer Sanders, but he has to not make any turnovers. He had the 1 interception in the first quarter. That hurt the Cowboys, but they kept going. As well, Tay Martin, he needs to get at least 7 targets, I think. That way, he is the best receiver. He's going to get touchdowns. He's going to get yards for the Cowboys. And most importantly, no turnovers. You stay turnover-free, you're not going to have a problem against the Horned Frogs.
Right. You know, my 3 keys of the game are, number 1, stop the run in this situation. TCU is the best, third best rushing offense in the Big 12. You know, they have great rushing attacks here and there. But the good news is the Cowboys have the number 1 rushing defense in the Big 12, so that should really help. But you never know. And my second key of the game is to stop Quentin Johnson, who is the second leading receiver in the Big 12 yards after catch. He's going to be a big playmaker for TCU, so the OSU defense is probably going to have to double team him in different situations in order to stop them, because that's who TCU is going to be throwing the ball to. And then my third key of the game, guys, is to take advantage of the passing game, because Oklahoma State and TCU, they like to pass the football in years past. There have been some high-scoring games here and there, but take advantage of the passing game, because TCU has the second fewest sacks in the Big 12 when it comes to pass rushing. So not a very strong pass rush for TCU. So if you're Oklahoma State, this should be a big game for Spencer Sanders and for this offensive line, and to hopefully build some confidence to this offense.
Well, Brock, really, thank you so much for joining us. Brock is going to be back later on the show, so you won't want to miss it.
And when we come back, we will touch on more of the Cowboy basketball season as they just had their first showing against UT Arlington a night ago. Stay with us.
Phoenix Plum has a great tape in Morgantown, so please stay here. You won't want to miss that either.
I want to show you something. This is the money we could save by switching from fresh packed California crushed tomatoes to concentrated tomato paste.
I want to show you something too. I got a new door. Go take a look at it.
Nobody uses better ingredients than Little Caesars. Like fresh-packed California crushed tomatoes. Pick up a large, deep dish for just $8.
Pizza.
Welcome back to the Poke Report. With the fall season in full swing, that means Cowboy Hoops is as well. Asa, you were at the game last Tuesday. What impressed you the most about this Cowboy basketball team?
Two things. I thought the fan turnout wasn't going to be as big for this first game, but there was a lot of fans there that brought a lot of noise. And number two, Keaton Boone. This guy was playing like absolutely, he was on fire. He was getting rebounds, he was scoring, he was stealing. You could tell he was playing his whole heart out on that court, even though the Cowboys had these sanctions. It's impressive.
Very good. I like it. The Cowboys returned 10 players to the team this year and look forward to play, even though they are not going to be in the playoff this year. Brock Baldridge has a story on just how the game turned out in opening night against UT Arlington on Tuesday.
It's early November, which means it's time for Oklahoma State Cowboy basketball. On Tuesday, OSU began their season going against the UT Arlington Mavericks. It's the first time since March of 2020 that the Cowboys hosted a game at Gallagher-Iba Arena with full capacity. It didn't take long for Oklahoma State to find their new star player, Memphis transfer Moussa Cisse, who had himself a night by scoring the first 7 points of the game and ended with a total of 17 points with 9 rebounds. Cisse was the toughest player to defend on the floor with his hyper-athleticism and his highlight reel dunks. Another player who contributed in a big way was junior guard Avery Anderson, who scored 13 points, had 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. Anderson is a player that keeps getting better every game that he plays, and he was the most efficient offensive player in the game. An additional player that had himself a good night is Kansas transfer Bryce Thompson, who scored 14 points off the bench in his first game as a Cowboy. Thompson was ranked as one of the highest recruits of his class and has fans along with coaches raving about his future impact with the team. Oklahoma State got off to a red-hot start and never looked back as the Cowboys led at halftime 43-14. There wasn't much of a difference in the second half as the Pokes outscored the Mavericks 45-31, giving Oklahoma State their first victory of the season by a wide margin, winning the game 88-45. OSU finished the game shooting 47% from the floor. However, the big improvement for the Cowboys was shooting 36% from beyond the arc, which triples their average three-point shooting percentage from a year ago. The Pokes played to their strengths by playing fast and transition offense and forced 15 overall steals in the game. After the game, head coach Mike Boynton expressed what he thinks his team needs to improve on going forward.
We've seen a lot of zone here the first couple of times we've been out, so continue to get better at zone offense. I think that's something we'll see moving forward. We got to keep getting better in transition defensively. I think we're really, really good in the half court. It's something we've talked about, our length and athleticism and ability to kind of switch and keep people out of the lane.
The Cowboys will get a short rest as they will be back in action at Gallagher-Iba Arena this Friday at 7 o'clock when they take on the Oakland University Golden Grizzlies. For the Poke Report, I'm Brock Baldridge.
Men's basketball has been off to a hot start this season. However, don't forget the women's basketball team.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cowgirls basketball team opened up against Colorado to start their season, and Chloe Hatfield has more on what makes this team special.
You entered last season as an afterthought. You weren't given a chance, but you didn't listen. You had every excuse to quit in uncharted waters. You refused and instead saw opportunity. You didn't flounder, you flourished. You turned heads and you made history. You could have been satisfied. You weren't. You stayed hungry. You turned the page and went back to work. You have new faces, but the standard remains the same. the eyes are still on March. You work with nobody watching because you know there is no sneaking up on anybody this time around. The time has come to enjoy the fruits of your labor. The game lights are on, and once again, it's your time to shine. We can't wait to see the encore.
Thank you, Chloe, for the great story.
Even though the Cowgirls did lose their season opener, there still is a lot to look forward to this upcoming season in a packed GIA.
I mean, you can look at Lauren Field's performance. She scored 17 points. There is a lot of potential there for her on the rest of the season.
Absolutely. GIA will be rocking this year, and we look forward to that.
Now let's talk about the other dominant sport on campus, Cowboy wrestling, and how John Smith has taken his team on the road. They're even in Stanford this weekend for their duel.
Absolutely. The Cowboy wrestling team has a lot of road duels to encounter this year. Alyssa Sanchez has more on what the wrestling team has to offer.
The Oklahoma State wrestling team is coming off a third-place finish at the NCAA Championship. The Cowboys will open the 2021-2022 season ranked number 7 in the preseason NWCA coaches poll. Completing his 30th year, head coach John Smith talks about a wrestler that has stood out to him coming into the season.
I thought really Plott seemed to wrestle pretty good coming off of surgery after Nationals last year. I thought he looked good. I mean, he's wrestling a couple freshmen, but good competitive freshmen. I didn't see anyone look bad, you know, and I don't know how good you could look early on, but those guys stand out to me a little bit more than the rest, you know.
Dustin Plott put up a 15-6 record and an 8-1 dual record as a true freshman in the Oklahoma State lineup in 174. With recently coming off an injury, Plott is better and ready to get back on the mat.
It's feeling amazing. I've been on the mat now for a month and a half, 2 months, and feel great. This past weekend at Wrestle Off is the best my body's felt in a long time, so it was really good.
Oklahoma State beginning their dual season on November 13th when they take on Stanford at Maples Pavilion.
This is a tough opener for us. You know, both of these back-to-back matches on the road, they're a real challenge. And so for that reason, I'm focused on the win. I'm focused on the team performing well. You know, I'm glad we get to go to Stanford, you know.
From the Poke Report, I'm Alyssa Sanchez.
Thanks, Alyssa, for the story. I'm looking most forward to seeing AJ Ferrari defend his title and continue to be the top wrestler on OSU's team. Along with his huge personality, it's been a lot of fun to watch thus far.
You know, we also got a Big 12 title we need to defend as a wrestling team. There is a lot of things to look forward to. You know, this is a historic and a traditional program, and John Smith is not going to let us just go into the night without something worth bragging about.
Absolutely, and GIA will absolutely be rocking this winter with the nation's top wrestling team and both Cowboy and Cowgirl basketball teams going at it. Looking forward to that.
Bouncing on over to the Greenwood Tennis Center. A dynamic duo had some major success in the Big 12 championship. Colin Miller has more from the tennis fields.
The Cowgirl tennis team competed in the Big 12 Fall Invitationals this week. Maya Saw and Call and Ayumi Miyamoto took home the crown. I spoke to them and assistant coach Yaimi Kanemares on their team success and the importance of fall tennis.
It's good always like to play against teams from the other conference and in this case beat them in the doubles draw, because that tells us that our level is right there, and also it sends a message to the conference like we're good and we are doing the things the right way. So
I asked Coach Kanemares if he thought the Fall Invitational could translate to momentum for the spring season.
I think so. I mean, I don't know how much momentum, since now we don't compete until like the beginning of the year, but it will give us at least a good confident boost for the girls to keep working and be ready for the spring and keep doing what they just did. And also it's good for them to be together. Ayumi plays a big role on my explaining things and how things go, because Ayumi went through the same thing that Mai is going. So I think they are like a good team and they balance each other very well, and they're very important of the team right now, and they will be very important part of the team for the spring.
While speaking to Ayumi Miyamoto, she was certainly proud of her fall performance. but that's not going to stop her from looking ahead to spring.
I don't know. I think we did pretty well. So we got we could build our confidence. So it's gonna help us to play spring season.
Confidence was something Miyamoto surely did not lack. Did you expect to come in first going in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking to Maya Saenka, it was obvious she's all about putting in the work.
Just we are working so hard about fitness or about tennis, so yeah, that's why we prepare a lot. We're gonna keep working hard, and I hope next spring we all gonna do better and have good result, and I hope everything gonna get in better and reaching the goal.
The Big 12 Fall Invite was a huge success for the Cowgirls. Now they look forward to the spring to show the rest of the conference what they can really do. For the Poke Report, I'm Colin Miller.
Thank you, Colin, for keeping us up to date on all things OSU tennis. In other sporting news, Oklahoma State equestrian rider Stephanie Grip was named the October National Collegiate Equestrian Association Standout Athlete of the Month. She is the first cowgirl this season to win a national award. Congratulations, Stephanie.
Oklahoma State men's and women's indoor track and field 2022 schedule has officially come out. The schedule includes 12 regular season meets before heading to Ames, Iowa and Birmingham, Alabama for postseason action. OSU will start their opening weekend of the indoor season with a couple of road trips for the Woo Pig Classic on December 3rd and Lawrence, Kansas for the Bob Timmons Challenge on December 4th. While you've stayed this long, coming up next, we have the best part of the show. We're doing the college game day picks, and we're going to have a behind-the-scenes look at the Poke Report on the road made by our very own Kylie Austin. Stay tuned.
Introducing Lincoln Black Label at Diffie Ford Lincoln. Designed to impress those with impeccable taste, Lincoln Black Label features a collection of interior themes and a host of exclusive membership privileges inspired by attention to detail and a love of automobiles. With Lincoln Black Label, you'll enjoy an extended premium maintenance plan that covers wear items or even remote vehicle delivery. Lincoln Black Label isn't about luxury ownership, it's about membership. Lincoln Black Label, exclusively at Diffie Ford Lincoln.
Thanks for tuning back into the Poke Report. We're glad you're with us.
Dallas, what was your favorite part of being on the road and in Morgantown this past week?
It had to have been just seeing a new area of the country. I'm a big guy when it comes to traveling, really like to experience new things, and to be able to go to the East Coast was a great experience for me. What about you?
I have to say I absolutely loved the pepperoni rolls that the people of Morgantown have to offer. Not to mention my other good friend in the Poke Report who has been on camera this past week, Luke Santangelo. He had a magical experience with a dog named Elsa. It was very pleasing and soul satisfying to see my friend Luke be happy. Well, Kylie Austin has a great story about what it's like to be in West Virginia on game day. Kylie, go ahead.
Hey Cowboy fans, we are out here in West Virginia. It is game day in Morgantown. It is Mountaineer weekend and we are so excited to take you through all of the action right here in West Virginia. The president of West Virginia, what is your favorite West Virginia game day tradition?
My favorite game day tradition is when we win.
What's your favorite part of game day?
Definitely has to be the student section. Definitely tailgating with the fans. I mean, that's the best part.
It is game day. Let's go check out some tailgates.
I love tailgating. So we come every day before game day starts, like 7:30 in the morning, and we stay here until about two hours post game.
Let's go! Have you been to a West Virginia game before?
This is the last Big 12 or Big 8 team I've never been to the campus.
What is the best West Virginia game day tradition?
The best game day tradition at West Virginia St. Country Road.
What's your favorite part of game day?
Peanuts! Take me home, country road.
This is Milan Husker Stadium behind
Thank you, Kylie, for the story. It is very fascinating.
The 16-hour marathon trip to Morgantown, West Virginia was worth it for myself and the crew. And the food was something special.
We got to eat at Muriel's, which was delicious, and not to mention when you are eating with such a beautiful view of the hills and the mountains, definitely worth the trip for me.
Absolutely.
Well, Phoenix Plum is now going to show us what the food is like on tailgating during game day. Phoenix, take it away.
Last week, the Poke Report traveled to Morgantown for OSU versus WVU. While traveling, we got to eat around town and try some West Virginian favorites. Located on High Street, the Iron Horse was a personal favorite for the Poke Report.
Nothing like stopping by this cozy gastro pub for new American vibes, local beers, and specialty cocktails before heading to Milan Stadium before the game.
On our way to the game, we decided to enjoy ourselves and stop by the Blue Lot and see what Mountaineer tailgates bring to the table. Clearly. Before we hit the Blue Lot, the West Virginia Bars Association invited us to try the infamous pepperoni rolls we have been hearing about since the beginning of our trip.
When visiting Morgantown, make sure you stop by a tailgate and try the Almost Heaven tradition pepperoni rolls.
Pepperoni rolls can be found at almost every tailgate we stopped by, but other fans have their own favorite dishes.
Favorite tailgate food has to be the home-style ribs and the mac and cheese. Every game day. Every game day.
Every tailgate had a setup that had a significant piece from pepperoni rolls to a customized Mountaineer bus. And when bringing a bus this size, you have to go all out for tailgating every game, especially for the holidays.
My favorite tailgate is the one that happens the week of Thanksgiving. And we always bring like we'll do the full layout. We'll do turkey, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie. We'll have a full Thanksgiving meal together. So that's fun.
After way too many pepperoni rolls and lots of hospitality from Mountaineer fans, we traveled back home with full bellies and new experiences. For the Poke Report, I'm Phoenix Plum.
Thank you, Phoenix, for the story. Well, we're now coming down to the last stretch of Big 12 football, and the Cowboys are in control of their own destiny if they can win out. However, some other games this weekend can affect that scenario.
Yeah, so how it looks right now is the OU is up first, and the Cowboys are right behind them with a very talented Baylor team right on the heels.
Well, to get more in depth about that game, we're going to have our very own Brock Baldridge, our Big 12 analyst, tell us more.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome in studio. I'm Brock Baldridge, your Big 12 analyst for the Poke Report. There's lots of games coming up this weekend. Should be some exciting matchups. We are now only 3 weeks away from the Big 12 Conference Championship game. Both Oklahoma schools are in great position to meet head-to-head in the Big 12 title game for the first time ever. If Oklahoma loses a couple more games, then all havoc could break loose in the Big 12 standings. We'll go over that here in a second, but first, let's go over some highlights from this past weekend. We begin in the heart of Fort Worth. It's an old-fashioned Texas rivalry as Baylor visits TCU. Starting in the first quarter, Baylor quarterback Gary Bohannon calls the play action and delivers right on target to his receiver Tyquan Thornton, who tight ropes the back of the end zone to stay in bounds to give the Bears an early 7-0 lead. Next TCU possession, quarterback Chandler Morris with the Statue of Liberty. It works to perfection. We're now all tied up at 7-7. Big day for kickers in this one as the 46-yarder goes through for TCU kicker Griffin Kell, makes it 13-7 Horned Frogs. Late in the first half, Bohannon uses the play action again. This time he finds his receiver Drake Darnby wide open. Baylor catches TCU napping, and the coverage on that play was as bad as the Horned Frogs uniforms in this one. Baylor now takes a 14-13 lead. TCU will add another field goal to wrap up the end of the first half. They lead it 16-14 at halftime. On to the second half. We might have an upset brewing. Mid and third quarter, first and goal. We have an old school football play. Morris takes the snap under center and completes it to his tight end Dominic Denenzo. All of a sudden, it's a 2-score game. Frogs lead at 23-14. Baylor looking to respond. Second and short, Baylor with the optical illusion. Bohannon hands it off to Tristan Ebner, and he will score the touchdown. Not only did it fool TCU, but it fooled the cameramen. Bears now back in business. They only trail 23-21. We now go to the fourth quarter. Bad news Bears. Morris exposes the soft coverage as he finds his receiver Quentin Johnson wide open for the touchdown. TCU makes it a 2-score game once again. It's now 30-21 Frogs.
nail-biting time for Baylor. It's 2nd and goal as Gary Bohannon takes the snap with a fake handoff and fires a perfect pass right to his receiver Tyquan Thornton. Again, Baylor makes it a one-score game, still trailing 30-28. Late in the fourth quarter, Baylor's in great field position. They can get out of Fort Worth with a game-winning field goal, but wait a minute. Why are we passing the football? Cedric Banks picks it off, and that's only Bohannon's 5th interception of the season, and it comes at the worst possible time. Who needs Gary Patterson? It's party time at the Stockyards as TCU shocks Baylor, winning the game by a final score of 30-28. Baylor loses a must-win game. They now fall to 7-2 on the season. TCU will improve to 4-5. Baylor now has to prepare for a massive home game this weekend as they welcome in Oklahoma. As for TCU, they will head to Stillwater this weekend to take on OSU, and they will be surrounded in a blackout. Let's now go over some stat leaders in the Big 12 Conference this season. Leading the way in rushing is Iowa State running back Breece Hall, who has rushed for 1,121 yards along with 14 touchdowns. Leading the passing category is West Virginia quarterback Jared Deggy, who has 2,180 passing yards with 11 touchdown passes. However, he does lead the conference in interceptions with 8. Looking at the receiving numbers now, Baylor wide receiver Tyquan Thornton leads the way with 722 receiving yards. Let's now look at some stat leaders on the defensive side of the ball. Oklahoma State's Malcolm Rodriguez leads the Big 12 in tackles this year with 87 of them. Kansas State's Felix Ndike leads the Big 12 with sacks, with 11 sacks this season. 4 of those 11 sacks came on one game alone. Then J.T. Woods, Colby Harvell-Peel, and B.J. Foster are all tied in first, leading the conference with interceptions. Let's now go over some final scores that happened in the Big 12 this past weekend. Kansas State wins the Sunflower Showdown for the 13th straight year in a row, winning 35-10. Oklahoma State's great defensive performance propels them over West Virginia, winning in a tough road environment in Morgantown by a final score of 24-3. Then Iowa State obliterates Texas by winning the game on their home turf 30-7. We'll now go over a brief look at the current Big 12 standings. The Oklahoma Sooners enjoyed their bye week, so they remain undefeated in first place. Oklahoma State remains in second place. Cowboys need 2 more wins to potentially secure a spot in the Big 12 championship game. Baylor is still in the mix at third place, but they now need help in order to play for a trophy in Arlington. Iowa State may be in fourth place, but they're in better position than Baylor because they have that head-to-head win over Oklahoma State, and they still have to play OU. Kansas State is having a good season despite being in 5th place. The Wildcats are a dark horse contender, but they still need everyone above them to lose. Texas Tech is in 6th place, but they need 1 more win to become bowl eligible. Then Texas is in 7th place after another disappointing season. West Virginia is in 8th place. TCU is in 9th. Then Kansas remains in last place. Let's now go over some key matchups in the Big 12 this weekend. There are no more bye weeks, so we now have a full slate of Big 12 football this weekend. West Virginia heads to the Little Apple to take on the Kansas State Wildcats. The Mountaineers need to pick up a couple of wins to become bowl eligible. The big matchup that everyone will keep an eye on is Oklahoma at Baylor. Big noon kickoff should be a fun one to watch. TCU will visit Oklahoma State for a blackout game in Boone Pickens Stadium. Then Iowa State goes to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech. That might be a sleeper. Then Kansas goes to Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns. That's all the time we have for the Big 12 update. Let's now go back over to Dallas and Asa.
This is going to be a fun last couple of weeks of football.
Absolutely. We have a lot happening inside Boone Pickens Stadium this weekend.
Don't forget the blackout game this Saturday. It's hard not to be excited. Barry Sanders is going to be back in Stillwater's old stomping grounds.
Yep, and Sanders will be inducted into the Ring of Honor before the game, so we're looking forward to that. And Brendan Ashley has more from Boone Pickens Stadium.
Barry Sanders is a lot of things. He is a Heisman, Maxwell, and Walter Camp winner, a unanimous All-American, a purveyor of automobiles for the Stillwater area, and is a member of both the College Football and NFL Hall of Fames, but that was not always the case for Sanders. Barry Sanders began his college career at Oklahoma State as, believe it or not, a backup, albeit to a fellow All-American and future double Hall of Famer, the great Thurman Thomas. Sanders was the second-string running back and handled the punt and kick return duties for the Cowboys in his first 2 seasons with the team. It wasn't until Thomas left Oklahoma State for the NFL that the Barry Sanders we know today was able to fully show his talent.
Tomorrow night, Oklahoma State kicks off the 1988 football season. The big question in Stillwater, can kick returning wizard Barry Sanders replace All-American Thurman Thomas in the backfield?
For most college football fans, Barry Sanders' 1988 season is the greatest single-season performance of all time, full stop. Sanders was able to amass 2,628 yards rushing, 3,248 total yards, 39 touchdowns, 5 consecutive 200-yard games, and at least 3 touchdowns in 9 of the season's 12 games. Just around the corner from the late and great Boone Pickens will be Barry. The 9-foot bronze statue is set to unveil Saturday at 5 o'clock outside the northwest end zone, but it's unsure if the statue will be posed in a way to commemorate the trophy that so few can win, the Heisman. His former high school coach Dale Burkholder attested to this, describing Barry's reaction to winning the 1988 Heisman Trophy.
He won the thing, and he knew winning it would bring more attention, more media scrutiny, more media, and that's not what he wanted.
Based on his incredible body of work, many OSU fans seem to be wondering when or if Sanders would be honored in the new Ring of Honor and on campus somewhere. But getting Sanders down to Stillwater from Detroit was no easy task, according to former teammate and head coach Mike Gundy.
People have pursued him for 20 years to come back. He just is kind of hard to pin him down, to get him on an airplane, to get him back. But once he gets here, he does great.
Sanders' statue unveiling and the Ring of Honor induction will be held at Boone Pickens Stadium this Saturday against TCU during pregame and halftime, respectively. For the Poke Report, I'm Brendan Ashley.
Thank you, Brendan, for the story. We're looking forward to seeing how that one pans out in Stillwater.
Speaking of Stillwater greats, being back here in Boone Pickens Stadium, Dallas, who was your favorite Cowboy that you've seen at your time here at Oklahoma State?
I was a huge fan of Tylan Wallace. Just the way he got it done and the way he went about his business was really impressive. Shout out Wallace. The Ravens play the Miami Dolphins tonight, so we're looking forward to him eventually getting some snaps moving forward. What about you?
Personally, I was a big fan of Brandon Whedon. He brought Oklahoma State to a level that they haven't seen since like the 1940s, winning that Big 12 championship. He made Stillwater exciting. He made the Cowboys a fun team to watch with a high-octane offense. And speaking of high-octane offenses in Big 12 football, we're going to bring in my good friend and golfing buddy, Brock Baldridge, our Big 12 analyst. Brock, thank you once again. We're doing your favorite part of the show, brother.
Absolutely. Love this part of the show. Let's do some picks.
Let's do it. The first game we're going to take a look at is number 6 Michigan at Penn State, Happy Valley. What do you got?
Well, you know, it's going to be interesting, this game, because I was big on Michigan this whole season, and all of a sudden they're just starting to fall off again. And the fact of the matter is, guys, is that Jim Harbaugh just can't win big games for some reason. I don't know what it is. He did well at Stanford. He did well with the San Francisco 49ers. But Michigan, he just can't figure it out. And this is one of the toughest road environments to play in. It's going to be the toughest road environment that Michigan has played in this season, and that includes Michigan State. So I'm going to go with Penn State getting the upset win in Happy Valley.
You know, Brock, I struggled against picks with you last week, so I got to regain my confidence. I got to get back into the high winning percentage. I think Michigan is going to pull it off. I think Cade McNamara is going to figure himself out. Jim Harbaugh, he's on the hot seat. If he doesn't win this, he is going to be out of Michigan.
I agree with Brock on this one. I'm going Penn State in Happy Valley just because that's going to help out the Cowboys. Big OSU fan. If Michigan State can lose, obviously we can move up in the rankings. So I'm looking forward to that one. Next game on the slate, we got number 11 Texas A&M at number 15 Ole Miss. I'll go first. I got Texas A&M. They've been playing really good football down the stretch. They're going to go into Ole Miss and get the victory.
I don't know what it is about road teams this week, but I am feeling Ole Miss. I think Bo Nix, he is going to once again be a quarterback who's going to get it done. He wants another bounce-back game, and Ole Miss is going to have that chip on their shoulder, wanting to get to the SEC championship.
Those are all great points, guys. And, you know, this was a coin flip game for me. I didn't really know. You know, I like Matt Corral, and I like what Lane Kiffin's doing at Ole Miss, and I also like what Jimbo Fisher has done as of recent at Texas A&M. I think they're improving. And like I said, this is a coin flip game. So, in fact, I'm going to have to make this one a coin flip. So, since I didn't bring a coin with me, we're going to have to do it on the phone. So, let's go. Heads, Texas A&M. Tails, Ole Miss.
All right. Come on. Tails. Tails.
Is going to be
heads.
So, I'm going to have to take Texas A&M in this game. Should be a fun one. Can't wait to watch it.
This is a big game we have up next. We have OU at Baylor, one that really matters down the stretch in the Big 12 standings. I'm taking OU. I just say that because OU typically plays well late in the season and figures it out in crunch time. I'm taking the Sooners. as bad as I don't want to say that.
Well, this is going to be one that Brock and I both agree on. Oklahoma, hands down. This is their time of the year. They are phenomenal in November, and they're going to use that voodoo magic that they always do to win, even though they'll be down by 30 in the fourth quarter.
We said we agreed on it, but not so fast, my friend. I'm going to take the Baylor Bears in a big upset game. You know, Baylor they could have won that game last week against TCU, but they threw an interception under a minute in that game, and it cost them the game. Gary Bohannon only has 5 interceptions this year. Very uncharacteristic for a Baylor team to throw interceptions, especially late in games. But you know what? This is going to be a big game for Baylor in this one. And let's be honest, guys, this is going to be the toughest road environment that OU has played in all season. You could argue maybe Manhattan, Kansas, but even that game against Texas, it was a 50-50 crowd. So this is going to be the first toughest game for OU to play on the road this season. So I'm going to get the Baylor Bears in an upset to win by a field goal.
Okay.
Well, it's the big game. In the house that Boone built, number 10 OSU versus TCU. How could I not go with the Pokes? I got the Cowboys winning in commanding fashion.
It's going to be close, going to be scary. There's a lot on the line for us to lose. But if we keep doing what we have been doing, don't fix what ain't broke. Let's keep throwing to Tay Martin. No turnover, Spencer Sanders. I got the Cowboys winning by at least 10.
I'd have to agree with you guys for once.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, 13-point favorites in this situation. A lot of people think this could be a trap game. I've heard that all season long, really. You know, hey, we're going to win all these games until we get the TCU. We might lose this one. But I think that's a game that you should be worried about the next week when OSU plays Texas Tech. But against TCU, not really concerned. I think OSU only has to do a couple things, especially on defense. Double team their best playmaker, wide receiver, and stop the run, and the Pokes should be okay. So I'll pick Oklahoma State. Go Pokes.
Well, Brock, thank you again for joining us. I'm going to see you out on the green this weekend. As always, you are a mean golfer, my friend.
Looking forward to it.
Well, that's all we have for the Poke Report this week. Do not forget to black out Boone Pickens Stadium on Saturday against TCU. I'm Dallas Haggerty.
I'm Asa Lucas, and thank you again for tuning in. We will see you next week, and go Pokes.